Today we have concept cars versus the real thing part 3. Part 1 was the Charger, and part 2 was the Challenger. In this series I look at a concept car and then compare that concept to the real model that actually got released for consumers to purchase. Today's episode is for the Chrysler 300 and 300M. If we turn back the clock a bit to the 1950s and 60s, we can see the car that the 300 name is based on. The name originally came from a 300 horsepower engine. The Chrysler 300 letter series were luxury cars that came with high performance. These cars all had big V8s and horsepower well into the 300s. They were built from 1955 to 1965 and were called the letter series due to the new model each year bearing the next letter of the alphabet as a suffix. So after the first one in 1955, the letters went from B to L, skipping over I. So the final model in 1965 was the 300L, and there was also a 1970 Hearst 300 produced as well. This was one of the origins for muscle cars, produced in very limited quantities and with a high price tag. And as you can see from the sales chart, a total of just 17,482 300s were produced over all the model years. Fast forward to 1991, and Chrysler made their first attempt to revive the 300 nameplate with the 1991 Chrysler 300, which was a luxury sports sedan. The 300 concept was actually inspired by the Viper and built on a stretched out Viper frame. The Viper went on sale in January of 1992 as the flagship car of Dodge, and Chrysler thought that they should have a flagship car for their brand as well. Although the styling was kind of similar to the Viper, as you can tell by the numbers shown on screen, the 300 has a longer wheelbase, more length, more height, and was wider than the Viper too. So overall, the 300 was more than 2 feet longer, half an inch wider, and 7 inches taller than the 1991 Viper. The wheelbase was actually very similar to the original 1955 Chrysler C300. Now let's look deeper at the visual features on the concept. Due to that long wheelbase, the car appears very long and stretched. There are rear suicide door hinges, so the back doors open opposite than what we're used to. This also hides the rear doors really well. To me it looks like a coupe at first, but you can actually see that it's a 4-door. The back seats still don't look like they have too much space though. Up front there are scalloped headlights and what has been described as a guppy grille, which is just a bunch of lines in an oval shape. The cool thing about this concept, looking back on it, was that Chrysler made it with the intention of taking it to production. The body was created with standard steel and proper lighting. The roof and pillars also got extra steel framing to combat the suicide doors. So this meant that the car was able to pass federal crash testing and meet other legal requirements for street cars. Although the car never made it to production, some features like the grille and headlights made their way onto other Chrysler vehicles. Moving on inside, there aren't too many photos, but the interior does look plush and comfortable with nice leather seats. The front was quite strange, with the instrument panel curving into the center console and continuing into the middle of the car. Looking at it from afar, it looks something like a boomerang to me. The shifter and all the driver controls are at an angle pointing towards the driver, and the gauges are large and round. Another interesting aspect of this 300 concept is that the driver's area was black, with black seat and a black console. The rest of the car, however, had tan leather seats and wood accents instead. That's kinda cool and something that I've never seen before, with the different color seats. The driver's seat also had air conditioning vents, and could control the lighting in the car to 3 different levels. Engineers also used a lot of sound insulation and gave it a panoramic view since this was supposed to be a luxury sports sedan. The 300 also boasted some new tech as well for the time. This marked the beginning of keyless ignition, but nothing like what we see today. The driver used a magnetic coated key card that was inserted into the center console, which opened a door covering the ignition, and from there you could start the car. Separate cards had to be used to move the seats and mirrors too. Although the rear seats didn't have a lot of space, they did have cell phones, headphones, a TV, and a VCR somehow built in back there. But looking at it, that looks like some dinosaur technology. Moving on to the performance, the 300 concept got a slightly modified iron block 8-liter V10 from the Viper. This gave it either 385 or 450 horsepower, there are mixed reports on this, and 460 pound-feet of torque. The engine was paired with a 4-speed automatic transmission with no manual option offered, so this was to make it suitable for luxury buyers. And the wheels were even bigger than those that are found on the Viper. 19-inch rims were up front with 275/40/19 tires, and 20-inch rims in the back with 335/35/20 tires to complete the staggered setup. So these wheels were really huge for the time. Unfortunately, this 300 concept never made it to production. I have to say that it does remind me of some other Chrysler concepts that came out later, like the 1993 Chrysler Thunderbolt and the 2000 Chrysler Chronos. As for the real thing, the first production version of the 300 came in the form of the 300M, which was released for the 1999 model year and around until 2004. The reason it's called M is because it actually continues from that last 300, which was the L in 1965, so that was cool of Chrysler to do. The 1999 300M had a base price of $29,295. Unfortunately, the 300M didn't really look anything like the concept. It did have a long body, headlights, and grille, but the sleek look and high performance didn't really translate over to the real thing. This sedan ended up going to many international markets and was built on the LH sedan platform, so it looks similar to the Chrysler LHS, Dodge Intrepid, and especially the Chrysler Concorde. Lengthwise, it was around 5 meters or 197 inches, so that's roughly 10 inches shorter than the concept version. It's also shorter than the 3 other LH sedans, and it actually fits the Europe 5-meter export size class, which made it more suitable to be used in close quarters on European roads. The inside was also way different from the concept. The finish was all in slate gray, with leather seats, wood accents, and softer materials on the dashboard and armrests. The interior had lots of legroom and headroom. There were tons of features that came standard on the 300M as well. These included a 240-watt audio system that had AM, FM, cassette, and a CD player, dual airbags, air conditioning, power windows, doors, mirrors, and seats, cruise control, and anti-lock brakes. Some options included a 320-watt 9-speaker sound system and a handling group package to give you more aggressive handling with stiffer shocks and recalibrated steering. The 300M also didn't come with the 300 plus power that its name promised. This car got Chrysler's single overhead camshaft 3.5 liter V6, which made 253 horsepower and 255 pound-feet of torque. This was paired with a 4-speed automatic that also had something called auto manual, where I'm guessing you could shift yourself. The curb weight of the 300M was 3,567 pounds, allowing the car to go 0 to 60 in 7.6 seconds and the quarter mile in 15.7 seconds. Miles per gallon was pretty decent at 18 city, 27 highway, good for 22 mpg combined. And another thing, the 300M was front wheel drive and got 16 or 17 inch wheels instead of the big staggered setup that was on the concept. I do want to quickly mention the newer Chrysler 300C that came after the M in 2005. I want to do a different video on that concept and production car too, since it did have its own concept, but it did continue the Chrysler 300 namesake. Other than a similar grille and headlights, the newer 300C looked totally different from that original concept, but it did offer high performance again, with the available 5.7 liter and 6.7 liter V8 Hemis, giving out between 340 to 425 horsepower, depending on your choice. Again, there will be a video on this in the future for another episode, going more in depth on the newer version. So overall, the new Chrysler 300M was a relative success, and the car sold over 206,000 times from 1998 to 2002. The success continued as well, with huge sales and media recognition of the 300C later on. Another interesting thing is that the 300M won the Motor Trend Car of the Year for 1999. One downside is that some people did not approve of reusing the 300 letter series for the 300M, since it was front-wheel drive and had a V6 instead of the powerful V8 and high performance in the concept and previous 300 models. To go back and compare the concept with the production version, there's obviously quite a difference. The concept looked amazing with the super long body, nice interior, sleek rear end, and also had that awesome power with the V10. The only thing I didn't really love about the concept was the grille. Compared to that concept, the 300M just looks underwhelming in my opinion, but I'm not sure how realistic the concept would have been for the market. So that's the end of the video. Which car do you prefer, the concept car or the real thing? Let me know down in the comment section below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed episode 3 of this series, and what car do you want to see next? There's a whole long list including the Viper, Ram, the newer 300, so I want to get to all of those eventually. Thanks for watching, make sure to like and subscribe for everything Mopar, and I'll see you next video.